Hi there,
and let you guys
everyone.
know more about CVs.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Sanya Bashir. I'm not an ex-trainer. I am a trainer at QA.
Apologies.
But yes, in regards to CVs, I've worked with apprentices as well who were training to actually get a role in industry. And one of the things I used to do was help them with their CVs as well as interviews as well. Now, there's a few top tips I'm going to give you today because, as well as Sharon running these seminars, we also have a service where we provide that we will help you with building a CV that will help you get noticed and also to help you through the interview process as well. So, hopefully, once you've gone through that recruitment process for a particular job, we are hoping that you will have a good chance of actually getting that role. So, few top tips in regards to CVs then. Number one, make sure your CV, the color that you're using, is applicable to people who are neurodiverse. What does that mean? That means that your CV shouldn't be black on green or green on black. It shouldn't be having some fluorescent sort of club lights or anything like that, those sorts of colors, highlighter colors. It shouldn't have that. Even the color red, I would tell you to avoid, because people who are neurodiverse, who are dyslexic, etc., they can't process information in certain colors and backgrounds. Now, you're probably thinking, well, I don't know who's neurodiverse or I don't know who's with dyslexia, but exactly, you don't know if the recruitment consultant has that, and you don't even know if the hiring manager for the company that you're applying for has that. So we want to be on the safe side and make sure our CVs are readable and making sure you're using colors that are not going to startle anyone when they are reading it. The second thing is that we've got to make sure that you do have in your CVs buzzwords. And the reason to have buzzwords is because everyone's CV usually goes through a system called ATS. And the ATS, what it does is that it does a bit of keyword matching, which can be visible within your CV. And the way you do that is if you've got a job that is, I don't know, a coding role, for example, coding in Python, as well as Java and C plus and C sharp, then you've got to have those in your CV if that's what you're applying for, firstly. Problem solving is a terminology that you should have in there. Debugging, because this is all related to coding, isn't it? You've got to put that in there. Putting in languages that you speak, such as Spanish or French or German, if that's not required for the role, you're wasting the space on that sheet of paper that you have for your CV. So when your CVs are going through the ATS machine, the recruiter will be
Hi,
giving
Sanya.
your CV 5 to 20 seconds of a cursory glance, and you can start to realize that your CV obviously needs work if it's not getting noticed. The other bit of advice I can give you as well is that do not put your image in there, for example. There's no need. And although we'd like to think that people don't have biases and people are not discriminating, it still happens, whether it's direct or indirect. I will be honest here, women within the IT field are still not, or within the computer science field, are still not getting enough recognition, or are still working their way to being taken seriously. There's a lot of factors why that's happening, but it is going to take a while until that changes, and it is changing. I'm not going to say that the industry is completely male oriented and male dominated. It is changing. However, we don't want things like the languages that you speak or your image to actually sort of be a disadvantage to you. Yeah, there's no need for that. It's going to take up space on your CV. Just don't do it. The other thing I have advised before, do not, and I've told this to Sharon as well when he was doing his CV, do not put your location on the CV. You don't need to put down if you're from London, East London, Hackney. Again, people have biases to these areas as well, whether they're influential areas or affluent areas, shall I say, or the areas that some people would say that run down. That should have nothing to do with the selection of a candidate who is actually skilled to do the role. But again, people have these biases. And the other thing is, if there was a job that was in Scotland, for example, and I put down I'm from London, and the recruiter's like completely ignored my CV because it's like, she's in London, the job is in Scotland. But how does he know I'm not going to relocate them? I should be the one to make that decision, isn't it? So do not put your location down there. Make sure your email address is there. Don't have a stupid email address like Princess Notre Dame 246@hotmail.com. No, it should be a professional one. Make sure your name is nice and clear as well. And make sure your mobile number, the one that you will answer, is there as well. Make sure that's all there. And there's a lot more I can go through, but however, if you do want that one-to-one CV coaching session, we do provide that, and Sharon will be sending out details regarding that. And what I can do in that CV coaching session is actually help you to not just make your CV, your level best, but also that, going forwards, after every role that you complete in an organization, you should be updating your CV with the things that you've learned, the things you've completed, the things that you've achieved, the experience you have gained. So I will be coaching you through how to keep that updated as well, which is your CV. Just going back to Sharon's point about, make sure you put down Java and all the other sort of coding languages that you know of. Whatever you put down in your CV, they might just pick on it. So if you don't know React, don't put it, right? If you've dabbled into React, put that down. Again, we if you come to the coaching session, we can put it down in a professional way. But don't put it down where you're like, yeah, I've not done it, but I'll just put it down as a lie, because they can catch you out. I can tell you where there was a small mistake on my CV, and it was actually a manager that actually, pulled up on him. So I was employee of the month at a company, and it was said employee of the year. And I don't know how that mistake, I didn't purposely do that, but it came on my CV, it came up as employee of the year. So when I was, going through an interview, and I said employee of the month, and she just stopped me there saying, you said employee of the month when your CV says employee of the year. And I had to say to her, yeah, that's a mistake, and it's not updated, etc. But straight away, that looks like a lie, doesn't it? It was a genuine mistake, actually. And I think also another thing is that you need to update and review your CV all the time. There's companies out there that actually will just take on your CV and redo it for you. But the thing is, they don't know you. It's better to go through a coaching session where you're speaking to somebody regarding it, rather than sending you off to someone and paying £145 to fix up your CV. And you're like, yeah, it's perfect. I paid £145. Send it off to a recruiter. You go to the interview and you're like, that's completely different to what I actually am. So just be careful of that as well. Coaching, being coached through a CV session is better than actually sending off the CV and not knowing how the other person is perceiving your CV. How long have I got, Sharon?
It's up to you.
Okay, I can keep going if you want.
Do you want me to move on to interviews?
I think I've got a couple more points, and then it's up to you what you want to do. Fantastic. So in regards to going back to the layout of your CVs, just make sure you haven't got different fonts going on, make sure it's coherent, and obviously make sure that the job that you apply for, the CV is relevant to that. Like I mentioned about languages, don't put in languages that they're not interested in. But also you've got to make sure that that opening statement or that opening paragraph that you have about yourself in a CV, it's actually related to the job that you're applying for. So you can't use one CV and believe that it's one fits all. That's incorrect. So you have to make sure that what you're applying for is in that first paragraph about yourself. If that's how you've built your CV, and especially when you're starting off your career, that really does play a great part in showing your profile and showing your branding. What I mean by branding is your personality, how you come across, and what you are all about. So if you are a person aspiring to be a full stack developer, but not just there, then we've got to mention that you have done X, Y, and Z, and you're leading to becoming a full stack developer, and you're open to the opportunities of training and becoming better within the role. And that is a sort of organization you're looking for. You know, going into an organization where you're just a pen pusher, fair enough if you want to do that, but do not complain when you're like, I'm not getting the training that I wanted. Because some organizations, they will take you on if they can actually develop you, and other organizations are like, we just need someone ready-made. And they might just say that to you at the interview, through the interview process. You know, be honest with yourself. What sort of job do you want? Recently, I came across someone in a completely different field, and she said to me, she's having X amount of issues with a recruiter, and also with not recruiter, sorry, her employer, and also the fact that she's not able to get her qualification from her, although she's completed it, but can't get the certificate. But she said to me, I can't afford to lose my job. And then that just makes you stop and think, you know, personally for me, that if you can't afford to lose your job, which is fair enough, you know, we can see that the increase in prices, etc., and what's going on around the world is really causing an effect on people's lives. But if you can't afford to lose your job and to go for something better, then you need to stay there. Then you made the decision of, I'm going to stay here, even though it's horrible, it's not good for my mental health, and it's not good for me, for my career progression. You've made that decision. And what I would say to everyone is, although we do want to earn a lot of money, everyone does. Let's be honest, you know, would me and Sharon have gone into this field or stayed in this field if there wasn't enough money, you know? But however, you need to think about your lifestyle as well. If you have dependents, you need to think about, you know, am I going to neglect them in order to get this high-rising, high-flying career with a very good salary, which is all fine. But you need to think about what's good for you and your life. And that's another thing, when you do go into employment, you ask for the things like working remotely, ask for, you know, I've got school runs, ask for, you know, for hybrid working, ask for these things. Because if you don't ask, you don't get. And the last thing you want is you go into a role, 6 months in, you start working remotely, or you start asking for hybrid working, and they're like, you didn't mention this to us previously, you know, or we never offered this to you. 6 months is probation. You mess that up, you're gone after the 6 months, you know. So meaning you apply for a job, you get the job, you work there 6 months. They're basically looking at your performance. If they feel like, oh, your performance is not all that great, come the 6 month date, they will get rid of you. It's not called being sacked. It's just you failed your probation, so we will not be continuing your employment. Simple as that. So just to be aware of that, especially for anyone starting within the field. But your CV, honestly, it does speak volumes. So I would say definitely book onto a coaching session. And I will, you know, I'm going to be coaching you through that. So I'm going to be there live, coaching you through it, going through your particular CV, not my CV or someone else's CV, your CV, and making it the best so we can get you to the interview. And then obviously we have the interview prep as well, etc. But yeah, that's all from me now. Sharon, hand it back to you.
Thank you very much for that, Sanya Bashir. Let's move on to interviews now. So